Hello and welcome again to another edition of Sun Dragon Tips and Tricks. I'm Rebecca. I'm the owner of Sun Dragon Art and Fiber in Brevard, North Carolina. And I'm coming to you from my house. And today I was hoping we could film a little bit of an introduction to something called corner to corner. Now, corner to corner is a really cool crochet technique where you can easily build a blanket from corner to corner. You go from the edge out and then back in again. Kind of make it like a diamond for what would eventually be a square when you're done. You can do rectangles and things with this too. But I really like what you can do with either color changing. You can actually follow a chart, almost like cross stitch in a way, and make something that will have a shape to it. You can also just make a one color baby blanket or a color changing baby blanket. It is all, as long as you know how to chain and double crochet, you can totally do this. Today, we are only going to be going over the basic building block. It's all built on like modularly on blocks. And I'm gonna go over how to kind of recognize and make the block that is the foundation of all of this. And then the next video I make, when I have a chance, will be on how to actually start building and making rows that are more than one block. So I was gonna show you my blanket. It's in the other room. As soon as I show it to you, let's get to it. Okay, I went and grabbed my blanket that I'm making. Before I back up and show you the whole thing, can you see how there's lots of little squares here? These squares are made up of 3 double crochets. So in that way, it's kind of like the building block of a granny square, but not quite. So I am making, it's gonna be a llama when it's done. The head's gonna go here. So we got a llama butt right there. But it started down in this corner and it grew out. And if I can get up to this corner, here's where the corner is actually coming back in again. But this is where it started, is down here in this little itty bitty corner. And what I want to show you, what we're going to talk about today, is how to make one of these little squares. But basically row 1 had 1 square, and then row 2 had 2, and then 3. It builds on the diagonal, and that's what we're going to start talking about with my whiteboards. And I might show you this blanket again on the table so you can see that. And then we're going to learn how to do just the building block of this. Just how to do the very first step. That's all today's video is about. So let's definitely get to it. So before I pulled out the whiteboard, I just wanted to show you this on the table so I could show you down here. This is where I started, and I have 1 block, and then I have 2, and then I 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's hard to keep track. 1, 2, 3, 4. It's on the way out, you know what row you're on because the number of little squares you have will be how wide your V that you're building, your diagonal that you're building out will be. And to show you what the actual edge of this, where we're headed towards, which again, we're only going to be doing the basic building block today. Where I am right now, I have these little ridges or spines. I call it the staircase when we're actually building it. We are walking up the staircase. This is the best way to show you that I have actually turned the corner. This is the very outside edge, and I'm coming back in again. So my row that's really long right now is not the longest one that I've done. To get my crochet hooks out of the way here because I've turned the corner. The longest one was about 69 stitches across. But when you learn how to do color changing, it can be really, really fun. So let's take a look at the whiteboard. So corner to corner, like I just was talking about, we are working diagonally. So what that means is we're going from one corner out to the widest point and back in again. So the direction of work is going to go this way. And you're going to start with one block, and then the next row will have 2 blocks, and then the next row will have 1, 2, 3 blocks, and they will nestle into each other. They will fit together, and once you get out to the widest point, you'll be increasing. When you get to the widest point, then you decrease, and you end up with the point at the end. So you're working from the corner to the opposite corner, going out and back in again. Now, this can be really cool because it is all built around one single unit. And those we can think of blocks or squares, like I showed you on my blanket. They look pretty much, it's a squishy square, so the edges won't be as defined as we might like them in geometry. But here's my deal with how to approach this. It's going to sound weird right now, but I'm going to come back to certain things you should always remember to do. And how I remember how to make these guys is think about them as a mug with a handle. So something you would drink hot cocoa or coffee or potentially tea out of. A mug with a handle is what builds these squares. And the handle part of it isn't really seen very often because that's going to become a building unit of how we make this all work. But for right now, we're just going to talk about how to build this structure so that then when we get to the next steps, you can see how it all fits together. So I have drawn a couple of things here. I have drawn, if you see symbols on a chart that's trying to explain what you're doing, the basic unit of it, this is what it might look like in symbols. We have a circle or oval is a chain, and this almost looks like a telephone pole or a capital T with a slash across it is double crochet. I'm using American terminology here, I should be really clear about. And so what builds our building block unit is chain 3 for the height and then 3 double crochets. Now where these 3 double crochets go depends on if it's on the edge or in the middle. But this is our generic piece that I want y'all to get used to seeing. If it was an actual, like this is my attempt to draw what it would look like, not the symbols. I usually say the chains kind of from the outside kind of look like little hearts or V's. So if we wanted to kind of color code this, we have 1, 2, 3 chains, and then we have 3 double crochets. Now the double crochet is that yarn over. Oh, that's a pretty dark green, isn't it? Let's not use that green. And you have a couple of different pull-ups. You get this long, twisty piece. We get 1 double crochet, 2 double crochets, and a 3rd double crochet. So that is what our unit looks like. You'll have a thicker section where your double crochets are, and the 3 chains that go up along the edge kind of have a little bit of a gap to them. So that's why I say think of it like a mug. Your 3 double crochets make the base of your mug here, make the actual drinking part of your mug, and the 3 chains count as your handle. This will be language I come back to in future videos so that you have a sense of what's going on and where things go. However, to get started, when we're starting from thin air, It's a little different when we're creating like an increase on the edge or we're just starting in the beginning. It's a little different than when we're in the middle of a corner to corner blanket. So to get us started, I just want us to practice and think about and do a single one of these blocks. When we have absolutely nothing yet, there's a certain way that we make them. And we'll be using that on the edges when we're increasing. The beginning of an increase row also uses what I'm about to show you. All right, so to make our first block or our first mug, when we're making it out of nothing, we need a foundation to go into. So you're going to start by just getting a loop on your hook and chaining 6. And here is my chain 6. When you make a chain tends to have a V or like a couple strands running down the front and one lump running down the back. And if you can, I recommend making any stitches that you need to build your actual mug here into those back lumps if you can. I will show you that with real yarn in just a minute. But what really matters is consistency here. We're gonna do, when you chain 6, to do the next step of it, which I believe might even be in the screen here, we need to skip the first 3 chains and do something in chains 4, 5, and 6. So let's talk about what we mean when we say that. So starting from, we chain 6, and you might count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 as you make them, but then we need to start with the chain that's right underneath your hook, not what's on your hook, what's right underneath your hook, and count backwards. So I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This may feel backwards, but we're marking them as they come away from the hook. To know we want to skip the first 3 chains and make double crochets in the last 3, which are, or say chains 4, 5, and 6. So I'm going to color code these the way they were over on the other side when I built my little rainbow mug. The way that is going to look here, it's not going to be in rainbow order, but if we want to end up with something that looks the same, and I'm going to only color in the front sides of these stitches. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. I know our 6 guy is really dark there, but we want to skip these. We really need to split them in half. And however you can backtrack, count 3 and go into 4, 5, and 6, or make sure that you're 3 away from the very end and put them in there. So skipping them and doing them, let me move this guy up a little bit. Skip the first 3 chains. So I've bent this up to show that we're going to take the hook around. We're going to skip 1, 2, and 3. And if we can go into the back loops, this will make this cleaner, but by no means is this absolutely necessary. But we need to do a double crochet into chain 4. We'll end up with, I'll just draw it with the color. We'll end up with a twisty guy who comes down into chain 4, and then 5, and then 6. And that's my very rough drawing in of these stitches. Now this part will be thicker, and this part will, the double crochets make our mug, and the chains make our handle. And that is all we're really going to do today. So let me just finish color coding this, and then we'll do it with real yarn. All right, so here we are. I'm going to try to use the brightest color yarn I have at home here on a big, pretty big hook. So I'm going to make my slip knot. I like to wrap it around my hand. I'm holding my tail. I wrap it around my hand. And on the back, I've crossed it over towards my rings there. I'm going to push it under and pull. I have a good video on that if you are just getting started. But this loop, the slip knot, can now, whoop, let's make sure I'm in the camera, can now go on my hook, and I make sure that I'm not going to crochet with my tail, get my tension all together. And chaining's really easy. The yarn over and pull through. So 1, 2, move my hand up, keep my V's in front, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now remember what I just said, the 6 count I just did was to make sure I have 6, and I'm getting all kinds of hair stuck in here. But now I'm going to start counting from the hook down. So I don't count what's on my hook itself. But I've got what I find the V's kind of like notch into each other on this front side. And you look, you can see that the bumps running down the back. If I'm going to count on the front, I try to pick a side to count instead of trying to count the entire V, because I might get confused because they don't sit level with each other. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, and 3. These 3 above my thumbnail here are my handle. I want to do double crochets into 4, 5, and 6. And double crochet, what you can do is get ready for your double crochet before you spot where you need to go, so you don't forget it. You need a yarn over before you start. I can also flip to the back side here. This guy's a little flubby, but I can flip to the back side, and these back bumps are where I'm going to try to go. So 1, 2, 3. Here's 4. I'm putting my thumb just to the left of it so I can spot that guy, and I can wedge my hook under. I do 1 strand if I'm doing the back hump. If I'm trying to go into the front V's, I try to get under a couple strands of the stitch, but then I can yarn over and pull up a loop and complete my double crochet with sets of 2. 1, 2. And then I've done this guy. I can follow my post down. I've done this hole. So there's my next back bump, my single hump there. I'm going to yarn over to start. Get under that guy. Get the yarn over the hook so I can pull up a loop and finish by my sets of 2. I have 2 of them. Yarn over before I start. I still have room here. This last guy, we may have to kind of fudge the lump we're going under, but I almost like just naturally go under and have it fall in place at this point of my crochet experience, but do those sets of 2 again until I'm done. That is all this video is going to be on, is making one of these little mugs. But again, the double crochet part here, these 3 double crochets, that is the body of the mug, and then this is the handle. I'm going to use this language in the next video I make that talks about how to increase, because this is 1 row, and I'm probably going to make my example where alternating rows are different colors so we can really see them. But this is 1 row, and then our next one is going to have 2. How to attach that, that's going to be in our next video. So thanks for joining us for that video. I didn't try to tackle too much in this first video because that will make it crazy long. But if you get the basics of how to do this first building block of corner to corner crochet, this first mug that I like to call it, the rest of the terminology and things that we're making, we might review some of this in the next video, but it's going to be using this, okay, we're going to build a mug here, we're going to build a mug here, and here's how we're going to do it. That will be in the next video. May not come out for a week. We'll see what kind of energy I have moving forward, because there's all kinds of crazy things going on with the shop right now. So thank you so much for watching, and may your crafting be filled with joy and confidence. We will see you next time. Bye-bye.